I do not know. And shockingly enough, that is the best thing I could ever say. What's up, guys? Go Pencil here, and here we can do a breakdown / discussion on my thoughts, my not necessarily first impressions, because he's been around for a minute now, so I probably should have done this video way sooner, considering I did a great video. But here we are to do my impressions, my thoughts, ramshackle, fresh and off the top of the dome about post-time skip Percy. A couple ideas on whether he is truly Percy, whether he shall go down the path of darkness, a path of light, or the twilight road to dawn. There are so many different things we have to talk about, so let's not waste any more time and let's hop right into it. What's up, guys? That guy with a pencil here. Fun fact, I do mean to have it on me and keep it on me at all times. And another fun fact, Percy, Percival, the night of death, the hope, or possibly the despair. Isn't that an interesting conundrum that we now exist in? That we can't exactly tell. Now, the thing about Percy in pre-time skip is that he was a character, right? Like don't get me wrong, especially as I've started my reread for part 1, so I can talk more about part 1 Percy and like the whole summation of part 1. I wanted to do it no reread, but it's been so long because I did like a full reread of part 1 that I wanted to do a whole reread before I started talking about it more in depth. But ultimately, part 1 Percy, he's cool. But notably, the main things I enjoyed him for was when he was sad, or bad, or very, very, very sad. And ultimately, the mystery that surrounded his existence. I'm not going to say I wasn't interested by the character of Percy, because like, clearly I was. You could check them old reviews. I was intrigued, horrified sometimes, and definitely a little bit scared. But now, where before a lot of Percy's intrigue as a character more so came from the idea of like, oh, I know practically nothing about this guy, and he seems to be very strange, even in comparison to the many strange and diverse species we've seen throughout the entire duology of Seven-deadlysins. Very, very interesting. Now, all of that intrigue that was sort of surrounding Percy is now in Percy, if that makes sense. And if you're wondering what I mean, note how, at least from what I've seen in the comment section to the community and stuff like that, there's a lot of debate going around. Debate around a particular topic. That topic being, is this even Percy? If you've been reading Four Knights since part 1, or even hopped on recently, you can notice a stark shift in Percival. Or at least the Percival that we thought we knew versus the Percival we have now. And it mainly comes down to his attitude surrounding one topic, which is so interesting because it's a topic he was kind of already deeply based in, and what part 1 was doing such a fantastic job of building to. Something that I now can especially appreciate as I reread part 1. Percy had a really, let's just say, interesting relationship with the balance of life and death. Obviously, not just for the fact that his whole story is started by the inciting incident of the death of his grandfather, but also simply because of his nature. Thanks to him having hope powers, as we called them for the longest time, he could literally control whether characters lived or died by healing their wounds, taking away their aches and pains. And typically, pre-time skip Percy was very, very interested in the idea of all life being sacred for the most part. He didn't like the idea of anybody, especially not his friends, but even his enemies, dying. And this was something that was pointed out to be a character flaw by numerous characters, but the main two that come to mind are two of the other main characters, both Nociens and Lance. And both bring them up in different ways, but ultimately correlate around to the same point. That point being, Percy, while you are a sweet, kind boy who believes in the value of life and all that is great, in most cases, if you fail to finish off your adversaries, the friends you've gotten, the people you care about the most, those who have saved you from the despair of loneliness, there is a high likelihood that those same people you let live will come back and slay those who you love. And notably, a lot of part 1 is Percy kind of, not necessarily learning to accept that idea, but more so, I'd say, being forced to accept it. And ironically enough, I think Jade, a character that Percy barely knew, plays heavily into that. When Jade died, and died, and then Percy, even using his powers, couldn't do anything about it, I think that broke something in Percy. Now, notably, we don't get to focus too heavily on what that broke inside of Percy, considering it was more so for the Tristan platoon, and then we immediately transitioned into the Demon World arc, which surrounds a lot more of Percy's origins rather than Percy's character. I think we see that shift to a more permanent solution kind of Percy. He went from a, let's just say, more Batman to Wonder Woman, where, yes, undeniably, he does care about the sanctity of life, but he's more than willing to take it whenever his friends are in danger. And notably, the thing that's caused the most debate about post-time skip Percy is his seeming disregard for life and his drastic evolution of his abilities over the 2-year time skip. And this is most easily shown when he first wakes up, when he instantly tries to take World Aid's life. And notably, unlike a more recent scenario, which we had with Gareth in the current tournament arc, Percy was fully intent on removing World Aid from existence. This is just confirmed in the moment and even retroactively in the latest couple chapters, where Percy used the spell that he used on World Aid, again on Gareth, but revealed that the only reason Gareth lived is because Gareth had a really strong will to live. But the only reason World Aid lived is because they aren't fully human anymore. The human side of them did die, and that is huge. Not just for the fact that World Aid did honestly hurt Gnossians and Gnossian's family, which obviously brought out some sort of pain deep within Percy, which is what caused him to wake up in the first place, presumably. But also, it was for the fact that Percy didn't even bother to try and really fight World Aid. At least not conventionally. He wanted them gone and removed them. And that shift is interesting. That shift is sharp enough that when we see it used again against Gareth, especially in a scenario where he didn't need to do it, like, let's be real, Gareth was not beating him, whether Gareth was involved or not. That was simply a fight Percy was not losing. It goes to show a more blasé belief on life or death. But not necessarily in the fact that Percy doesn't care, but almost like he understands it more. And that's the other thing about post-time skip Percy that's super duper interesting and is causing all this debate. It's hard to tell if Percy spent those 2 years being trained by his fellow life spirits and understanding the nature of the world, or was replaced by one of them, particularly Zeruda in 2, the life spirit that manifests all the way back in the Demon World arc in part 1. And the reason that is because of his strange amount of knowledge and almost transcendental existence now. He views things a lot more, let's just say, directly than he did before. We see this a couple different times. First things first, when he mentions how, oh yeah, you know, the life spirits around here, they're a lot healthier and a lot more juicy and delicious than you would think, Kay Pendragon. I can tell they were raised with love, as he devoured another life spirit by eating an apple, which was strange. He never mentioned the life spirits existing in food before, but there he did. In fact, if you'll remember, he was the one who found Gawain, somehow, by following the life spirits that just somehow told him. And remember, Camelot's not a small place. It is a realm consisting of multiple realms, some of which have starry night skies. Now, even at the lowest end, Camelot is multisolar, but Percy, throughout that multisolar realm with countless portals, using his knowledge of the life spirits, immediately got there, immediately found a way. We have an even more subtle yet recent example with his immediate identification of Dubs as Mystery Package, where he just looked and was like, oh, you couldn't tell? This is easily Dubs. Even though Dubs had completely changed size, I joke about the fact that they probably changed voice and shape and all that. It didn't matter. Percy knew. Percy is a lot more knowledgeable than he was before. And it's interesting. It leads to this desire. And it's a desire that has me both intrigued and a little bit scared for Percy in the long run on whether or not we'll ever get an explanation or get to see it. Notably, one of the biggest things I have about Four Knights Arthur is that I, one, don't want him to be taken over by Chaos or Cath or anything like that. Influence is fine, mostly, but I do want him to be Arthur on his own will. But also, I do want to see that journey. I don't just want Arthur, kind of nice guy at the end of Seven Deadly Sins, to Arthur, evil man, no transition. Same thing with Percy. I don't just want Percy, nice guy who values all life, to Percy, I will slaughter you if you even look at my friends funny, or if you pose the slightest bit of threat to me, even if you really don't. There's a missing gap there. And actually, that is the 2-year time skip, and that's the thing I'm most intrigued about. Now that Percy and Zura into, for all intents and purposes, have fused properly, right? Like, Percy the Life Spirit is really Percy the Life Spirit, where before it was Percival the Human, Percival the Boy, Percival the Knight of Hope. Now he truly is Percival, Arbiter of Death. Truly to the point where his visage, to some, when he abuses his abilities, appears strictly as death. I want to know how. I want to know why. And I want to see more and more and more and more and more characters begin to react to it. Notably, we've already started. Nakaba's already shown that he's going to be willing to let our characters have opinions on this new Percy when we see how Nasians and Anne react to the vicious, or at least seemingly vicious, slaughter of Gareth. They're a little concerned. They, like the audience, have a bit of fear in their hearts over the boy they thought they knew, clearly exhibiting quite a deep amount of darkness. And I'm interested for more. Very particularly 2 more characters I want to see react to Percy and this new version of him. Tristan, once he's finally restored from Tantris and actually gets to bear witness and understand the monster that abandoned him 2 years ago. And obviously, my amazing, my legendary, my glorious Prince of the Fairies, Lancelot. I want to see how he reacts to the boy who was once far too innocent, now being possibly too dark. And I think the reason those reactions are going to be so interesting, the reason I have so much faith in the fact that Nakaba is going to cook up something delicious when it comes to their reactions, is because of Nasians. I mentioned earlier that Nasians was one of the 2 major characters who had noted Percival's lack of grit, lack of drive, lack of willingness to follow through on things. And the other one was Lance. So now I want to see how Lance reacts to this new Percy. A Percy who's willing to take the life of anyone who would threaten him. And I'm interested to see this continuous ebb and flow between a Percy who is clearly still mostly the same guy. The guy with the same love for his friends, the same desire to protect, the same desire to explore, and the same desire to save the world. And the Percy who has grown. The Percy who has changed. The Percy who's lost in this strange balance between a being who understands, is, and simultaneously is against life and death, but also is in absolute control of it. Of course, we still have a lot of characters alive. Possibly too many if Gareth truly does join our squad. And it's not beyond Nakaba to slaughter a character or 2 for some character development. I'm interested to see what happens when the boy who was lost for 2 years, who came back to keep a promise, I'm very interested to see what happens when he can't keep that promise. When someone, possibly a friend, possibly an enemy turned friend, possibly anybody, falls within the nature and realm of the death with the boy who is meant to be the knight of it. But of course, that's what I think. Please tell me what you guys think in the comment section down below. If you get all the way to the end of this video, please leave a New Hope. Alright, that's it. I did it. I literally did the New Hope, and then someone pointed out in the comment section, Pencil, you had the perfect opportunity. And I did, so I'm doing it here. But leave a New Hope in the comment section down below. What do you guys think about Percy? Do you like time skip Percy more than original time skip Percy? How do you feel about him? Do you like him? Do you not like him? Tell me all that and more in the comment section down below. Now, I'd like to thank you guys so much for watching. Please remember to leave a like, share, comment, and subscribe. And make sure you hit that little tiny notification bell, because please, I swear the sub box don't work. Please hit that little notification bell so you do not miss out on any videos that come to the channel. As you can tell, I'm trying to do some more drawing. I'm trying to get back to more of the general character discussions. I'm looking at the manga roster. I'm trying to figure out what I'm keeping, what I'm not keeping, what I'm dropping, what I'm not dropping. But please leave that. If I do have a Patreon down below, if you want to support your boy for as low as $1 a month, you can get things like live reactions of Fourknights of the Apocalypse, which range sometimes from like 20 minutes to like 45 minutes. I'd be yapping a lot in the comment section down below. You can also now become a member of the channel for as low as $3 a month to get the same perks and more. Some of those perks include, like I mentioned, the live reactions of every video of the series I have to review, ad variations of all my videos, and if you become a $25 patron or a $25 member, you can order whatever video you want. Also, I have a link to my Ko-Fi in the description down below. You can drop 5 beans for a short video, 25 beans for a long video, or any beans at all, any support is always greatly appreciated. Now, I'd like to thank you so much for watching once again, and I hope you guys have a wonderful day. This is That Guy with a Pencil, writing off.
I'd like to give a thank you to our $3 members, Zara, Greyhound, Eternal Flame, Redwolf 4765, Astro, Brandon Payne, Glacier XZ, and G Prosper. And I'd like to give a thank you to our $5 members, A plus A, Ignil Lind, Kevin Encarnacion, Midnight Lord 21, and Sean. And I'd like to give a thank you to our $7 members, Fine, Austin Wimberly, Uchiha, and Yuki Ally. And I'd like to give a thank you to our $10 members, AZ Void, J Warrior, and Robbie Uchiha. And I'd like to give a big old thank you to our $10 patrons, Overlord Zero, Waki Munoz, and Idem Okami. And I'd like to give a final gracious gargantuan thank you to our $100 That Guy with a Pencil tier patron, Calvin Elder.